Rozpoczynamy od pierwszej prezentacji ogólnej, którą wygłosi pan Artur Dyro, prezes oraz założyciel firmy Learnetic z Gdańska. Zapraszamy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very glad to be here. And this is obviously my favorite topic I'm going to talk about today. And I have a pleasure to open this session about the innovations in e-learning. So I believe we meet today to discuss use of new technologies in education. But to be honest, I do not feel quite comfortable, and we should be honest by ourselves as well, because how many of us were taught by our children how to use Snapchat or Instagram? How many of our Facebook accounts were created by our kids? So that's obvious that we have to be very careful planning anything for our kids, for our youngsters who are often much more fluent with the technology. And shall we feel a little bit like a dinosaurs, because we always call a new technology a tablet or computer or smartphone, but this is not new technology for them at all. They were born with that. Quite often they start to use it very, very early, and no doubt that they are quite different from us. I have to say that 2 weeks ago I was on a very serious conference when the CEOs of the publishing houses meet together to plan their digital strategy. And please imagine that one of the main keynote speakers were two teenage brothers. One of them was under 18. That they invented a very innovative math program to help children to solve math problems. So this is definitely a sign of the time. As I said, kids are really different than we were in their own age. At the age of 5, they can play computer games, they can use mobile apps. At the same time, almost none of them can tie their shoes. They are also different in many other ways. For example, when they're sitting on the same couch, they're still sending messages to each other. It does not mean that they are worse or somehow, let's say, it's not a good, but simply their world is different than us, and we have to understand. And when we as an educator spoke to them, we probably noticed that they listen less and less what we have to say, and there are many reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that still education is about facts, and facts are cheap today. It took us a visit to library to get a new fact, but today they are seconds away. They can check it immediately on their smartphones, and they are not keen to listen what we have to say, assuming they can get it immediately on their phones. It looks like we speak a different language. We cannot understand each other, and if we continue this way, I think that we will soon speak to classes like this one, or empty classes, where children will be totally elsewhere. You probably remember that something like in 2001, the US Congress introduced a program called No Child Left Behind. I would like to suggest maybe that we should consider a new program called No Teacher Left Behind. So we have to be really very careful to chasing them and to be in the world they are if we want to give them knowledge and information that we think are valuable and can help them in their world. So I would risk a statement that discussion about e-learning is much more important for us educators than for them. They are already there. They are Googling, sending messages, using Facebook, also in context of education. So we should somehow find our role in their world in order to be there and in order to participate in the learning process and the learning experience. But I still think that most of the applications they are currently using, they were not invented with students in mind. They were not invented for the educational purpose, although they are commonly used for that. So I think there is a room for us, educators in the e-learning industry, decision makers, to define this world again or update it a little bit with the elements which might help our children to learn better, to learn faster, to learn with more engagement. So high quality content, safe virtual environments, flipped classroom methodology which allows them to learn in their own pace and in their own way. It all has to be redefined, created, and proposed them. Hopefully they will use it for their better learning. So I would like to propose a small change in the definition of our role. So far we call us educators or teachers, but in keeping the frame, I would like to call us more enablers. Someone who will enable our children to learn better with the use of technology. We should look for solutions and tools which help them to perform better. So I would like to be called enabler, and all my professional life was about this, so I'll try to develop and invent different tools and technologies which would help children to learn better. And let me give you a few examples of what we've done so far on the Polish market and how they influence schools that adopted that. So first of all, we prepare a lot of different high-quality interactive content. We team up with the Ministry of Education. This is an example of the first grade textbook which Ministry prepared, and we did it in the interactive version. We did the same for the grade 2 and 3. We prepared interactive versions of the assessment that were produced by the Polish Examination Office. So we put them also in the interactive versions. And many other content, commercial and free, which are helping students and teachers to learn better, to learn in their own way, with their own pace. One of the interesting elements that we added to this puzzle was also a tool for teacher. So we believe that the world of educational content is comprised of the commercial content built by professional publishers and developers, but also by the teachers. So we offer them a tool, a free tool that the teachers can use and create into interactive content. It does not mean that it will be used by all of the teachers, but those who started to use it created really valuable and beautiful and interesting resources that are used by them, obviously, by the students, but they also share it with other teachers. And I'll show you a few examples of most commonly used ones. So a resource prepared by one teacher is currently used by 9,000 students. So I think it's a great thing that one teacher can influence not only his or her own class, but also a lot of other students. You know what it is? These are data. So this is also the way how teachers and students are communicating with each other today. So the teacher is asking to do something, students are filling the different, answering the questions, and then the teacher gives them feedback. So this is exchange of data more or less between teachers and students. And I think it can be improved as well. What we propose also to them is that they can use a platform when the teacher can assign the work to them, but once the students will solve all the activities, teachers are clearly informed which of them performing good or bad. And this information is not limited only to the mark or to the percentage, but they are also informed about the process. So the teacher exactly knows which elements or which students struggling the most with a specific topic. And within the learning content, usually we try to push our kids to achieve 100%. So if they all have 100% result, it's hard to say which of them are good or bad. But using or observing the process, we are much more in a position to say which children need help, which of them are good enough to be challenged with the more difficult or more challenging questions. So these platforms are free, available for teachers in Poland, and they can really help them and improve the exchange of data, exchange of information and communication between teachers and students. We also try to improve a little bit of the education of special needs kids. There will be separate speeches today about it. This is the solution which we call the LearnPen, which is addressed to kids with a dysgraphia. So these kids cannot write and draw properly. So we invented a pen which you can use to draw on a tablet, but unlike any other typical pens, this pen measures pressure and the grip, which are exactly connected with the dysgraphia dysfunction. So except the nice activities that kids can solve and draw on the tablet or on the smartphone even, the teachers are also confronted with a clear report saying if the grip, how we grip the pen or pressure of the pen on a tablet is good or is within the limit or within the standard range or not. Obviously, everything what I've demonstrated here, all these enabling technologies are working on all devices. So there will be obviously discussion about equipment, is it present in schools or not. Please remember that this equipment is there already in the pockets of your kids. So no doubt it is there. Once the schools adopted this technology, we start to observe subtle but important changes happening in the classroom. So first of all, we notice that there is no such a thing like a revolution in school. So digital solutions, digital content and platforms happily coexist with the traditional printed materials, and they simply enrich the process, and there is no way to just replace one with another. Next thing what we notice is that the kids are much more keen to collaborate, to work together, to share their knowledge and experience over the content, over the digital solutions, as they do in their private life using the social networks. What was very important also to us that we noticed that so far shy or silent children got a voice, and they start to participate in lessons either in asynchronous communication or in the classroom. So we have a new star in the classroom, new stars appearing much more often and participating in the classroom activities. Paradoxally, we also noticed that although we're always afraid that the technology and communication can kill the social interactions, we notice that the students and teachers start to collaborate more, meet more. They are much more partners over the technology today, as many times teachers can learn much more from the kids than it was in the previous years. But the biggest change happened in the places when e-learning can do a lot. These are the pictures from the hospital school when the children who cannot attend the regular classes can use e-learning to make a distance learning, to connect with their kids, with their teachers, to work asynchronously in the proper time for them. And this was really a very encouraging element which we noticed. This is a special school that we support and offer them the e-learning solutions. But kids and students are not the only one affected. This is a very precious email that we received from one of our teachers. You see the Polish and English version, we receive it in Polish obviously. So we see that the teachers are inspired by new technologies, and they challenged, and they feel like a new opening, securing him from the professional burnout. So this is really a very precious and important element here. But please don't be fooled with my presentation. These changes, these adoptions are still very rare. They are not in majority of the schools. They are in fact in a few schools, and the changes are very slow. Moreover, there are also examples of the very bad use of technology. This is a very lively and, let's say, interesting discussion in the class, but in many cases we replace it with the sad computer rooms when we put our children and students in front of the computers, asking them to work by themselves, losing the biggest value of being in school and being in the classroom, which means the social interactions and exchange of information and collaboration. So these elements are already on the market. These elements are already in some schools. We see some really interesting improvements in the classes among the teachers and students. But I believe there is still a lot of work to do. There is still a lot of innovation we should introduce. And I'm happy to open this session, this innovation session, with a group of true influencers, true trendsetters, who has a lot to offer here, and who are able to change the future of e-learning and the education itself by the big extent.